Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Connor. We are going to be talking about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 4, Episode 20. It's called Qpid. Although spelled just Qpid. Because obviously a Q episode, because we have to do funky Q spellings every time we do a Q episode. So full spoilers for the episode, of course, as per usual. And this episode features... Well, when we read the description last week, it concealed quite a bit. It said that it was going to do Robin Hood, and we're going to have, Picard as Robin Hood, and like someone from his past, and all that. And that's the second half of the episode, right? But there's a lot of build up before we get to the Robin Hood part, and Q plays into that, of course. Q's why, of course, it would end up in Robin Hood because he uses his powers.
Obviously,
the Mixopitalic, tangential character that he is. And we definitely joked about who this woman from Picard's past could be.
We did, because if you go back, I was like, I wonder if it's Troy's mother.
Yes.
And we were like, well, who else could it be? And this did get thrown out there, I think by you actually, as a possibility. Although I don't think you were being entirely serious when you threw it out there, I'll be honest.
I think me suggesting that, especially, I don't remember. I don't remember what we say a week later, but me throwing that out there with a jokey tone of course, it's not going to be that. Don't be ridiculous. It just makes this funnier because within minutes of this episode, before the opening titles, we are treated to the return of Vash.
Which I did laugh, honestly, when it happened because of the conversation we'd had at the end of the last one.
You might remember the Picard holiday episode from last season where they go on a bit of an Indiana Jones style adventure and he kind of falls for her. They even have a love scene and we have this romantic plot with Picard and Vash, and she even just shows up randomly in his quarters. Now, they explain it that she's because they've just beamed aboard a bunch of scholars and archaeologists because Picard's doing an archaeology talk because it's a bit of a passion of his. And that's kind of the context of what's going on in the episode. And she jokes as she came in the window. And I was kind of like, it kind of feels like you did. It feels like you feel like Catwoman right now. It feels like you sort of snuck into Batman's
knowing
lair.
that it was a Q episode, I was like, is Q behind this somehow?
Yeah, I was half expecting after he kissed her for it to try to Q and be like, dada, it was me, Picard.
Yeah, gotcha.
And only for Picard to get really upset about it, because of course he would.
Yeah.
So Vash is back, and after the last episode with Vash, she wasn't necessarily the problem. It was more just the writing and everything else in that episode.
Everything else, yeah.
But it's just really funny because obviously we do not remember that episode fondly. In fact, I think we declared it the worst episode of season 3.
I believe we did.
Quite rightly. I am happy to say that while this is not a standout episode, it is definitely better than Vash's last episode by quite a margin.
By a significant amount.
It's not a great one. I think what works about it is that this time we get Vash interacting with the other crew, and I think almost every other character's time meeting her in all the different contexts, because that's just basically the first half of the episode, is that after she's been with Picard and they're having tea in the morning, as soon as Beverly walks in, and it's this awkward because Beverly and Picard have had a bit of tension. There's a bit of potential romance there, and we've had that in the past. And she's like, "Oh, you've got company, Picard." And obviously Vash gets more and more annoyed as the episode goes on that Picard has told no one that she exists. No one knows about her.
It's funny. It's just, and everyone being like, "Oh, Picard had a thing on his vacation, did he?" Yes.
And so we have Beverly have this kind of moment with her, and then it's a little bit, I'm kind of like the third wheel here, but she's quite friendly to her.
She's having fun at Picard's expense.
Yes, because she can tell Picard's uncomfortable, and then Riker tries to hit on her, which I think is funny given that obviously Picard and Riker are in different age groups, so you'd expect that typically speaking, if they're both going to hit on women in a social situation, they'd be hitting on women of different age groups. I love that Riker's like, no. He likes the whole range. He likes the whole range of ladies.
He's not picky, is he?
and he tries to chat her up. It doesn't work out. She's just immediately like, "Oh, you must be Riker."
And he's like, "Uh-oh, what do you know?"
So yeah, there's some fun to be had. Worf has a couple of good lines, I think, in this episode that I thought were quite amusing. Yeah, he has one early on. First of all, he's really annoyed that she's on the bridge when I think it's either Troy or Crusher who brings her onto the, or maybe it's Riker. Maybe
I think
Riker,
it's Riker,
actually.
yeah. Because he's giving her the tour, and I'm kind of on Warp's side. I didn't know the, counselors. I think is what they refer to them as. Had bridge clearance. And I'm kind of with him here. Like, this feels weird, just bringing a rando onto the bridge.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's also. I mean, obviously Picard's not approved of it, but typically a friend of the captain's does tend to get a bit of leeway when it comes to.
And that's how they do it. Riker's like, she's a friend of Picard's, and he's like, well, by all means, then.
Yeah, there's a couple of lines from Morph that crack me up. There's one at the sort of function after this, where she walks away at one point, and there's a few of them standing in a group, and he turns and goes, "Nice legs." And there's like a pause. He's like, "For a human."
Yeah,
that was amusing. Later on, when they all end up in Robin Hood, sort of pantomime or what you want to call it, he just yells out at one point, "I am not a merry man," and that really cracked me up.
That made me laugh as well.
Taking himself very seriously, but. So Worf has some good moments. Some of the others get to interact with her a little bit. Obviously, Trotty's around, and Geordi, he's got his fiddle, or not fiddle. It's a little lute. What's the little thing he's playing?
I think it's a lute, yeah.
Yeah, a little lute. But yeah. So the premise of the episode, though, really is that Picard obviously is very weird with her around. He's happy to see her, but he's very weird with her. And then Q shows up, separate to these events. And wants to basically feels guilty. He hates that he feels like he owes Picard because Picard helped him when he was like kicked out of the Continuum last season. He's like, "Look, it's eating me up that I owe you, so let me do something nice for you so that the debt's paid and I can move on with my life." Which is a funny concept that Q, like, this is like keeping him awake at night. I owe Picard something. I'm in debt.
It's like, I can't have Picard think I owe him a favour.
And he's like, "Oh, what do you want? What do you want?" And Picard tells him to get lost, but he has a fight with Vash because Vash is upset that he's told no one about her, and he tries to explain that
I'm a very private person. A captain should be impersonal with their staff.
Yeah, I shouldn't be talking about my personal life to the staff, but to the crew, and even some of the others try to tell. I think Crusher even says at one point, or no, it's Troy, because she's trying to like, wait, you're the counselor. Picard's supposed to like tell you things and confide in you for therapy reasons. And he didn't mention me at all.
And she's like, he's a very reserved person.
Yes. And she gets kind of upset about this. And Picard spends the night alone. And Q shows up middle of the night. He's like, "Oh, spending the night alone, Picard." And I love how it's the two Vash episodes. We get to see like Picard's like his like, I don't know, pajamas or whatever you want to call them. It's the gown that he wears. It's like a big, huge V, so you just got a lot of chest hair. It's like, oh, yeah, we get some Patrick Stewart eye candy for the...
That's what everyone wants, isn't it? For
the ladies and otherwise interested out there. But basically, Q's whole thing is that once Picard starts making this speech about this planet, with obviously archaeology stuff on it, right? Ancient dig sites and whatnot. Q decides to all put them into a Robin Hood style play. The point of which is to make Picard realise that he does care about her, and he does care about romance, and that he's a bit lonely, and he should stop denying himself things. So the intentions from Q are actually kind of nice in a weird way, despite the fact that obviously Picard's annoyed that he's been shoved into this. And
it's very much that traditional Q misguided intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he thinks he's doing the right thing, and you can kind of trace back the idea to, okay, this is a good thing, but also they are in real danger.
Yes, they could perceivably be killed in this situation.
Because that's their first plan is just, we'll just wait it out and you'll take us all back in a day or so. And it's like, you could do that, but someone might die if you do.
Yeah, but because obviously Vash is, I'm not like, I know the broad strokes of Robin Hood stuff. I'm not as familiar with because obviously the sheriff and all that. I know. This like king like character, whatever he is, that has a kidnapped.
He's not the king.
He's not a king, but whatever he is, he's lord or something.
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with that, or like I know the idea of the Merry Men. I couldn't have named the Friar Tuck's the only one I could have named you.
Off the top of my head, Friar Tuck is the obvious one.
Yeah, I couldn't name you the rest of the Merry Men, but obviously I'm familiar with the idea of them. In fact, at one point they wanted to do a shared universe of movies where every Merry Man got his own movie. If you remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that. The Merry Men is something where if you give me a list of them, I'll recognize every single one of them.
Yes.
Like if you read them off to me, I'll be like, yep, that all sounds right. You ask me to name them, I give you Friar Tuck. I go, there's the one that's got something to do with red in the name.
Mm-hmm.
And Little John.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Little John, yeah. And that's about it.
Yeah. So, but they all realize what they are. I will say, at least from a directorial point of view, there's a couple of nice moments because Picard says he's going to go off on his own to save Vash, and we get a little bit of her context. She's kind of confused because she doesn't know who Q is yet.
She's made Marion in this world as well.
Yeah. So she's just kind of like locked in a cell. She's confused and she agrees to marry the Lord or whatever. And I did kind of like the reveal where Picard's like got like a robe on and he kind of reveals that he's already there and he's been listening. And it's kind of like a little, I don't want to quite say badass moment, but like in a mild kind of way. It's like, that was kind of nice. And I thought it actually did an even better job later where he's told everyone to stay behind, but when he tries to save her, he gets caught. And Vash is very critical of you didn't bring everyone else. You just came here. This is doomed. This is doomed for failure. But they're about to execute both of them. And there was a similar moment where, like, one by one, the rest of the crew, just like Picard earlier, all started putting their heads up. And they're all wearing like hoods and stuff, and it's like, okay, all right. And we have our swashbuckly scene with everyone fighting, and that stuff's honestly, I think having this only be half of the episode was a really smart choice. I think if they tried to do a full episode in the Robin Hood plot, barring a couple of scenes of setup, I think I would have hated this episode. I think
I get that
condensing it down to just the 15 to 20 minutes of it that we got made the pacing work, where I wasn't annoyed that we were wasting time doing this. It felt like they weren't trying to like think of more things to do in the set, and it was like, no, basic, just boom, 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 boom. There's the plot.
Even as it like lost its appeal quite. I think like the first 5 minutes of the Robin Hood stuff are the strongest point of it.
That's fair.
But I do think it's it's not so bad because there's, like I say, it's like halfway through the episode because I checked because I'd forgotten it was doing Robin Hood stuff after we spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like halfway through the episode when all of a sudden they're transporting. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And I checked, and it was like 25 minutes in.
Oh, I just remember the Worf moment that popped me is when he just walks up and takes the loot out of Geordie's hands and smashes it on the tree and says sorry afterwards in a sort of genuine way, but
yeah,
mission accomplished.
Yeah. And I think it was this first 5 minutes or so that I liked. The crew all kind of having this, what the hell's going on, interacting. I don't know, Troy shooting Data with the arrow.
Yeah, your aim's getting better, kind of thing.
Notably, those little bits were fun.
Yeah, it felt a bit weird to me, the interesting idea in this episode that Data's got a thing in his arm that could be used as like a flash grenade or something like that. It's like it feels like a little doohickey, and it's like, oh, okay, I've used that before. Something like that I remember. Yeah, well, I think I appreciate the concept of what it's doing with Picard and Vash a lot more than it maybe actually works, because I think, and their chemistry's okay. Like their chemistry's fine, and the back and forth, that kind of, like, he's trying to save her, but she's headstrong and is like criticizing him, calling him an idiot. That very kind of like Indian. It's Marion, right? From Raiders as well. It's the same name. Well, not,
it is, yes.
Not the same as Vash, but same as the Robin Hood.
Yes. I got what you're going.
It's that kind of thing where she's like critiquing him and like wisecracking and like giving him a hard time. On paper, that sounds like a fun time and it sounds great. I don't know if the chemistry's quite there enough to make the rest of the Robin Hood plot pop.
I think, and hear me out here.
Okay.
If her first episode had been a good episode,
sure,
we wouldn't even be having this conversation now.
That's possible if we gave a shit at all about their relationship.
I think that's what it is. And I'm like, I'm a little confused. Has there been like an ongoing correspondence between them in the year going on, or have they heard nothing from each other? Like, I wasn't actually sure because I could have seen it being either way.
It didn't feel like that to me.
No, okay.
I just felt like the first time they've seen or heard from each other.
So definitely seen each other in person for sure, but I wasn't sure if maybe they'd continued, they'd kept in contact at least. But I don't know, I could be completely wrong. It was just kind of a vibe I got, but there was no outright mention of anything.
Yeah, so, at the end of the day, they win. I did kind of like how Q, because he's the sheriff, but he's just kind of lounging around and like commenting on things and waiting for the action to kick off. Yeah, as Q does. But when they get back to the ship and he snaps them back, Vash isn't there. Vash is not on the ship, so it's a little bit concerning. But when he goes to his ready room, Q pops in with Vash, and Vash wants to explore. She wants to go places that no one else has ever been, and Q can offer that. In fact, one of the things that Q offered Picard early on in the episode was like, hey, this planet, because one of the things that this planet that got the dig sites they're talking about is that, some decades ago, it became the planet decided they didn't want to let anyone, like, outsiders come out of the planet, so no one can go and dig anymore. And Q's like, hey, I can take you down. I can just snap my fingers. And he's like, no, I'm not breaking laws of another civilization just because I fancy seeing a dig site. Like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, well, time travel then. I'll take you back to when it was legal. And Picard says, no. My speech will stand on its own based on the real information I have. I'm not cheating, kind of thing. But Vash at the end is like, yeah, he's going to take me around the galaxy and show me all these things that I would never otherwise see.
It's pretty in keeping with her character, and I get that why Q has also sees the appeal in her in that because she doesn't like play by the rules of being the damsel in distress. In the episode, she's like got her own plan. She's like, all right, fine, I'll marry him and get myself out of this. I won't be in captivity. So I get what Q sees the appeal of as well.
Q's reaction to that as well, because he didn't expect that. When the Lord comes down, but before Picard tries to save her, and then she's found out as a traitor. But there's a brief moment in the episode where she's actually going along and saying she'll marry the Lord, and Q, when he sees this and he hears about this, because he's like, oh, this is weird. Why is she out of her cell? It's like, oh, because she's agreed to be my wife. He's like, huh, I didn't see that coming. It's that kind of reaction from him. So you have that. Picard says, okay, you know what? You want to pay your debt to me? It'll be paid in full if you promise her safety. And they have a kiss at the end of the episode. It's not a great episode. There's some nice things that it's doing. There's some fun character moments. But it's way better than the last episode with Vash at it, so...
Yeah, I think it could have been a lot worse as well. Like saying, if this was a lot more Robin Hood stuff, I mean, I'm a lot more open to that than you are, but that would have been rough. As it was, like, even as it was, it felt like it was stretching it. But, I mean, it was only really like 10 minutes or so of the episode where I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be kind of over now. So yeah, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I felt very grateful that it was only the back half. If this was like one of those holodeck episodes where they'd gotten there in the first 5 minutes, this would have been rough.
This would have likely been a contender for worst of the season.
Especially since I think the first half where it's the rest of the crew getting to meet her, and not so much because of Vash herself necessarily, but the idea that this is the first time they get to meet a captain's girlfriend, essentially.
It's like, oh, we've got something on him now. This is and they're enjoying embarrassing him.
Oh yeah, the look in Crusher's face in that first scene, that breakfast scene, because she always comes round for tea or something in the morning or coffee, whatever it was, and just that look in her eye, she's like, "Oh, who are you?"
Like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Yeah, like when she sat in the captain's chair, and then he obviously walks in, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is gonna be fun."
Yeah, it's not even just that she's like, oh, that's the captain's chair, and Riker's like, yeah, that's the one, and she goes and sits there, which is fine, no one really questions it, but then she sort of like puts her feet up as if she's getting comfortable.
Yeah.
And she's not, and it's also, and not that she's dressed like promiscuously and like that, but she's not dressed in uniform, she's dressed kind of in like, like a top, a skirt and tights or whatever. It's a normal outfit, but the fact that she's in something that's a bit more civilian, and she's like, kicking her shoes off and like getting comfortable on the chair with the legs up, it just kind of feels like, oh, this feels really alien, because she doesn't look like a Starfleet officer. She looks like the captain's girlfriend is sitting in his chair and making herself comfortable.
And they're all just like, oh, this is going to be so much fun to tease him about next time he's drunk.
Oh, and then he walks out and there's just this moment of silence. It's like everyone's like, huh, Vash is on the bridge. That's Oh, I'll see you tonight. And there's a moment as well where it's like, oh, I'll see you at the reception tonight then. And she's like, yes, I'll see you there. And it's like, I think she wants him to lean in for a kiss goodbye. And Picard's just not going to do it in front of everyone. It's just not going to happen.
No, but these moments, they're probably the highlight of the episode.
Yeah, they're the best part of the episode for sure. There's no question. But there you go. That is Qpid. It's okay. It is notably though. Aside from the pilot, which was obviously not a great episode and that had Q in it, this is probably the weakest Q episode since they became a good thing. Yeah,
but also not a terrible episode by any means. So,
no.
Not one that I'm annoyed at having watched like some episodes.
Yeah. So the next episode is called The Drumhead. Here's the description on IMDb. A retired admiral boards the Enterprise in an effort to determine the actions aboard the ship surrounding an act of sabotage and possible treason.
So it's one of these episodes.
Sounds like it's got potential. This is also a Jonathan Frakes directed episode coming up next, so that's
okay. That's good.
Who's still doing it to this day? Every other episode of Discovery, I feel like I'm seeing his name in the credits. So he's adapted. I'm gonna have to pay attention because he's really bad with the Dutch angles and the modern stuff. I'm going to have to pay attention next episode because I don't think of Next Gen having a lot of Dutch angles, so it will stick out if he does it.
Yeah, I suspect it's more just that's the style that they established for Discovery, and he's just going along with it. I don't think he's I don't think it's him that's particularly guilty of that.
Well, yeah, but his are more Dutch angles, so I think he leans into it a bit more than some of the other directors.
I wonder if it's less that he leans into the angles, but more whatever the style is, he leans into it a bit harder than everyone else. Like he really goes for it.
Very possible, but yeah. So that is next time is the Drumhead. But you can let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. All that is really good for YouTube. It helps us out a lot. And it gives us a chance to reach more people. You also support us on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month. And also worth mentioning, until the end of the month, you can go and submit your top 20 up to top 50 TV shows of all time, and they'll get points, and there'll be a results show based on everyone's list that are sent in. Is essentially a voted for top 50 TV shows of all time that we're doing. It's a celebration of hitting 10k subscribers on YouTube. You can find the link on the Twitter, the Facebook, or the YouTube posts tab. You know, the text post. If you click in that tab, the top one will have a link to submit that. So go and check out all those things and submit your best list. And if you really want Star Trek Next Generation to place highly, then maybe go and submit and put it on there somewhere. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek. And somewhere out there, probably not in Sherwood Forest, Wesley Crusher is in complete control.